Over the course of today, Ukraine's defense forces struck 3 Russian air defense systems and an ammunition storage point. Source: General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine on Facebook. Information is of 1800 on the 29th of May. Details: over the course of today, Ukrainian aircraft carried out 15 airstrikes on areas where Russian military personnel and equipment were concentrated. Units of Ukraine's rocket forces and artillery struck 3 areas where Russian military personnel and equipment were concentrated, 1 ammunition storage point, 3 air defense systems, and 3 other critical military targets. Over the course of the past 24 hours, Russia carried out 2 large-scale missile and airstrikes on Ukraine. Russia deployed Kh-101, Kh-555 air-to-surface cruise missiles and Iranian-made Shahed-136 131st drones in an attack on the night of the 28th to the 29th of May. Most up-to-date information has confirmed that forces and assets of Ukraine's Air Force and air defense units from other forces within the armed forces of Ukraine shot down 36 out of 40 Kh-101, Kh-555 cruise missiles, and 30 out of 38 Shahed-135 131st attack drones. On the afternoon of the 29th of May, Russia deployed an Iskander operational tactical missile system to launch cruise and ballistic missiles on civilian and critical infrastructure facilities in the city of Kyiv. Ukraine's Air Force downed and destroyed 11 out of 11 Russian missiles. Russian forces conducted a total of 53 airstrikes and deployed multiple launch rocket systems in further 20 attacks on positions of Ukrainian forces and civilian settlements. Several civilians sustained injuries. A number of private residential houses, and civilian and administrative facilities were damaged. Russian forces are continuing to focus their main efforts on establishing full control over Donetsk and Luhansk oblasts in eastern Ukraine. Over the course of today, Ukrainian forces repelled a total of 20 Russian assaults. The operational situation on the Volyn and Polishcha fronts remains much the same as before. There is no evidence that Russia is forming new offensive units in the area. On the Severshchina and Slobozhanshchina fronts, Russian forces are continuing to maintain their presence in areas near the Russian-Ukrainian border. During today, they conducted an airstrike on Myliv in Kharkiv Oblast and deployed mortars and artillery to fire on Seredyna Buda, Pavlivka, Katerinivka, Shevchenko, Vlika Pisarivka, Sumy Oblast, in Udi, Streleka, Libok, Morokovets, Ternova, Izbitsky, Stericha, Hatish, Vovchansk, Plitanivka, Taik, Vovchansky Kuturi, Malavovcha, Varvarivka, Budarki, Zemlyanki and Chuhunivka Kharkiv Oblast. On the Kupiansk front, Russian forces made unsuccessful attempts to advance on Mashutivka Kharkiv Oblast. They deployed mortars and artillery to fire on Kolodyazne, Kamyanka, Krasny Persh, Novomlinsk, Vorokna, Zapadna, Mashutivka, Petropavlivka, Kucherivka, Kyslivka, Lushkivka, Berestov and Bohuslavka Kharkiv Oblast. Russian forces did not undertake offensive operations on the Lyman front. Russian aircraft struck areas in the vicinity of Bilohorivka, Luhansk Oblast, and Spurnt Donetsk Oblast, in Sheldnevsky, Dubrova and Bilohorivka, Luhansk Oblast, and Spurnt Donetsk Oblast. Russian forces also did not carry out offensive operations on the Bakhmut front, though Russian aircraft struck areas in and around Toretsk Donetsk Oblast. Vashukivka, Kramatorsk, Tikhonivka, Orikovo-Vasilivka, Bakhmut, Chasiv Yar, Ivanovsky, Predtekine, Bila Hora, Zalians and New York Donetsk Oblast came under Russian fire. Russian forces did not make any attempts to advance on the Avdiivka front. Over the course of the day, Russian aircraft struck areas in and around Avdiivka and Vodiant Donetsk Oblast. Russian forces also shelled Novokolino, Avdiivka, Pervomaysk and Karlivka Donetsk Oblast. On the Marinka front, Ukraine's defense forces repelled 12 Russian assaults near the city of Marinka. Russian forces conducted an airstrike near Georgivka and shelled Marinka and Georgivka in Donetsk Oblast. On the Shakhtarsk front, the Russians conducted airstrikes on areas in and around Vuhledar and Prekostivka, and shelled Paraskoviivka, Novomikhailivka, Vuhledar, Novokranka, Prekostivka and Shakhtarsk. Russian forces are on the defensive on the Zaporizhia and Kherson fronts, and conducted airstrikes on areas in and around Mala Tokhmachka and Huliaipol, Zaporizhia Oblast. They also shelled Grimivka, Zelenypol and Novopil, Donetsk Oblast, Olhaivsky, Huliaipol, Malotokmichka, Novodanilivka, Orikhiv, Novoandriivka and Stepnogorsk, Zaporizhia Oblast, and Kachkarivka, Milov, Kozatsky, Verhunka, Elvov, Ivanivka, Antonivka, Komyshiny, Dniprovsky, Kizimys and the city of Kherson, Kherson Oblast. Russian occupation forces are continuing to loot. In Svatov, Luhansk Oblast, they are appropriating harvesters, trucks and other expensive farming equipment from farms whose owners have fled and where the remaining employees cannot provide documents confirming the farm's ownership. The General Staff of Ukraine's Armed Forces reported on May 30 that Russia has lost 207,440 troops in Ukraine since the beginning of its full-scale invasion, with an estimated 410 casualties on May 29. Ukrainian forces scattered around Bakhmut could retake the city after Wagner Group mercenaries evacuate and are replaced by regular Russian troops. As Wagner Group troops evacuate Bakhmut, Ukrainian forces may have a chance to retake the war-torn city, but it's unclear if that will be Kyiv's priority as a long-awaited counteroffensive looms. Russia claimed victory over Bakhmut earlier this month after a long and costly battle for both sides of the war. Shortly after, Wagner Group boss Yevgeny Prigozhin announced he would be withdrawing his mercenaries from the city on June 1 after Russia claimed full control of the city. Regular Russian troops will replace Wagner's forces, Prigozhin said. That transition, coupled with notably low tempo and movement from Russian forces in the area, leaves an opening for Ukraine to potentially retake Bakhmut, according to an assessment from the Institute for the Study of War. The analysis, released May 28, said, Ukrainian personnel in the Bakhmut area reportedly expressed optimism that the decreased tempo of Russian operations around Bakhmut may facilitate further limited and localized Ukrainian counterattacks. Those offensives, along with ongoing relief being provided to Ukraine's troops, could provide Ukrainian forces in the area the initiative to launch a new round of operations around the city if they so choose, ISW stated. While Bakhmut may have been a symbolic win for Moscow, Ukrainian officials such as President Volodymyr Zelensky still assert that Kyiv's forces are active in the city limits. Now, they're saying those Ukrainian troops can continue to make gains around the city and stage a semi-encirclement to drive Russia out, according to the Washington Post. It's unclear if this plan would come as a part of Ukraine's counteroffensive or if it would be abandoned for other movements in eastern areas along the front lines that prove to be more strategically important to Kyiv. Nonetheless, the attrition-style fighting of Bakhmut has left Russian forces exhausted ahead of Ukraine's long-anticipated counteroffensive.